So we are going to hear from two leading international organizations. The first one is in Madrid, where a data portal, which is backed by locational technology, supports sustainable decision-making by bringing all municipal data into one view. And the second one is Rail Baltica, which is the largest infrastructure project in Northern Europe, where digital maps provide a holistic view of the entire system, so the railway personnel can make the best route decisions and plan to be less environmentally impactful. So our first presenter is Jesús Cerezo, and he has led digital transformation using locational technologies like GIS for urban planning and city management in his more than 25 years in civil service. So let's hear directly from him. Jesús? Perfect. All right.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Betsy, for your words. Good morning, everybody from Madrid. Good afternoon here in Spain. Everything happens somewhere. Decisions are made based on data. The better data we have, the best decisions we'll make. But do our local governments consider the position of data as one of its most valuable attributes? I guess the most of you would answer no, but I'm here to show you it should be so. So let's take a walk through Madrid history dealing with geopositioning of data and how we understand geodata as a service. Once upon a time, governments were a little bit like lions. They know where to hand, which position to take, depending on wind direction, when to attack, when to hit, when to bite. Everything is pure instinct. But fortunately, those days are all up. Humankind thinks, has the ability to make things happen in their minds before they occur in real world. And that's because we can remember data and we can associate this data with real events. And so we can predict what's going to happen. We can choose what to emphasize, what to minimize, what to change, or even what to delete that what's about to happen. But if we look back to see what's been going on with our governments, with data within them, we'll probably find the same faces in all of them. First of all, when we were paper-based, access to data took a long time. We had filing cabinets, we had to browse cards, hundreds of cards, write down the shelf, go to the shelf, take a book and write down the data. Too many manual operations. With the arrival of computing, things change a lot. First of all, as we could digitalize the filing cabinets, and so instead of browsing cards, we just had to go to a database and make a query. But afterwards, we had to keep on going to the shelf and take the book and so on. When we digitalized documents themselves, the process was boosted once more. And so we could say that we could reach almost any document from any desk at any office throughout the organization. But in both cases, whether we are talking of paper or PDFs, data is hidden within the documents, and we had to process them to use data. Maybe in some cases, we could extract data from the documents just by reading and typing in a database, optical character recognition, or even more recently with artificial intelligence. But it doesn't matter the way we did it. It's a finished product, it's not raw material. And that's because the main advantage of computing is that we can store data from the very first start. Either a citizen or a public employee uses a management app or a web page. We can store data, we can use it through the process, and we can maintain its traceability. But usually, we are more concerned about documents, but it's just the case of the culture of the organization. I mean, companies born digital, they are more concerned about to be data-driven and to think at data as what keep wheels turning. But in ancient organization, and Madrid Town Hall is one of them, we are more concerned in the legacy on documents to next generations. A brief story, the first document of what we can consider Madrid's town hall is dated in 1346. And I think that 7th centuries is time enough a culture to grow. What I mean is that we are just newborns to date. We've been talking of data, we've been talking about its relevance, our needs to be data-driven. Of course, everything is fine, it's true, but it's not enough. We haven't spoken a word about geometry yet. Do you remember how I started this talk? Yes, everything happens somewhere. That means that every data that we've been talking about last 5 or 6 minutes may be georeferenced. We learned that long time ago when we began to store the position of things that were happening. But how did we do it? All of us have started adding a column to a spreadsheet or to a table in a database just to store the country, the city, an address, or even a pair of X and Y coordinates. But that's not georeferencing. Let me explain. If we do so, of course, we can query database to return all records that match, for example, Manhattan Borough. But we can't query what's north to Manhattan or what's completely within a circle of 1 kilometer radius from LaGuardia Airport. And that's because we are not using geographical databases, and that's why we need to use them. And geographical databases are intended just to store geographical items. I mean, we are concerned about the name of the boroughs, but what it's really important, it's the polygon itself with all of its vertices. The real benefits of this kind of databases, it's that the power of data grows with a new kind of knowledge, the topological relations. And we know this very well since we started to use geographical information systems in the last years of the past century. But either extracting data from PDFs or storing it natively, we reach to another cultural issue. Is that every department usually store the data that their department needs. And so maybe data is replicated through some data sets within the organization, and that is not efficient. This has many risks because, first of all, if you store something more than once, you need extra space. Second, you need to update it everywhere you have stored it. And third, and in my opinion, is the worst of all, is that nobody inside the organization can be sure the data they are using. That's why data lakes came to our lives to store every piece of data with the needed requirements so that everybody within the organization could say of every piece of data that he is using or they are using the right one. Now, let me share with you what the technical staff give to our managers and politicians who run the city. And now let me share with you what they really need. They don't have time to spend browsing information. They need just a one-page dashboard to see what's happening at a glance. And to get to this kind of information, we need to cross data. And crossing data requires knowing every data set and its field structure, so we can make the needed updates and relates inside our data model. The only way to achieve this is storing data where others are expecting it to be. And so the question is, where is every department expecting data to be? I started where? Yes, correct. The answer is where. That's why Madrid has gone further, entrusting relationships between data sets to just geometries themselves and thinking of geodata as a service. Doing so, every department is responsible for the management of its data as producers, keeping in mind that geometries is the most valuable attribute, as is the key to be accessed by either citizens or the rest of the organization. Last year, we have developed an aggregator of web services that runs itself as a web service. Its endpoint expects a pair of coordinates and a key. We can set up as many keys as we want, each for one purpose. And we can group some services, some web services in every category and in every key. So the best thing of this is, as it runs as a web service, we can call it from a mobile phone using the GPS position. We can call it from a web page with a text box using a geolocator. You can use it. You can call it from a web map, or what we are testing nowadays, you can call it by voice. 3 years ago, we developed the Cibeles Plus prototype, a skill for smart speakers that leads you to urban town planning rules that apply to a certain point in your municipality with natural language, what breaks all digital bridges that usually this kind of information takes. This prototype allowed us to verify that we can provide public services totally aligned, technologically aligned with the civil society. We hope we are nowadays assembling this our web aggregator to this prototype, and we hope that we can show a scoop of it in our next geo conferences that will take place on Madrid the 22nd of March. You are invited. Here you have a QR code should you are interested in attending to them. And finally, and that's the main idea Madrid wants to share with all of you this morning, is that understanding and of course using geodata as a service, it's the one and only way governments have to make things happen where they should. Thank you very much. Thanks to Esri and Crain for their invitations to share our vision with you. Should you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us at this address, and we'll be glad to hear from you and hope we can help. Thank you very much. Betsy?
Thank you, Jesus. It's pretty incredible how much the coordinates are driving not just how you're collecting data, but how you're storing it and the searchability. And it just creates so much uniformity, it sounds like, for everyone, whether you're internal to the government or external.
Yes, we are involved in a transformation, in the digital transformation of the whole organization. But I can say you that in the last 3 years, it's been a turnaround going. Everybody starts to consider the position of data, and they are being with they are knowing the real benefit of doing things like that because we were working in a more like working by silos, and now we are working in a totally throughout organization. It's a much improvement for our government.
Yeah, it must feel like such an improvement internally, and then I'm sure that even if they don't realize exactly why, that the folks and the residents experience that as well. Like they can tell that everything has gotten so improved when you break down those silos. Well, thank you so much. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to
Bye.
introduce our next presenters. So we have Raitis Fumanis, who is the from Rail Baltica, who leads the development responsible for implementing technologies and processes, including building information model data, GIS, and asset and data management systems. And then with him is going to be Vidas Ulenska, and he has worked to assemble the project's GIS team, build a custom GIS infrastructure from scratch, and